Okay, welcome back everyone. So in today's video, normally when I do these commentaries, they're somewhat rehearsed or practiced, or at least have some bullet points to them. But today's is going to be a little bit more off the cuff, and just kind of put some thoughts together in my head of some things that have been I don't want to say bothering me, but at least getting me worked up a little bit within Apex. So here are a few things, at least the most toxic things that I think of when it comes to Apex Legends today. So let's just get started. A little mini countdown here, if you will. Number 1, leaving games once you're dead or downed. So the really cool thing about Apex Legends, which hadn't happened in any of the other Battle Royale games, was the chance to be respawned. Now you can be downed and revived. That stuff, you know, happens all the time. It's a pretty common thing in Battle Royale games. But the chance of your teammate dying and then you being able to grab that banner and take them to a beacon to be respawned was something kind of unheard of in Battle Royale games. So it's a really cool feature within Apex that's now spawned into things like Fortnite. So very unique and cool ability. But for some reason, a lot of people still leave, even before actually dying, just getting downed. People leave games. Now, when I say leaving games, I don't necessarily mean you know, leaving the game in the middle of something or anything like that. I mean specifically when you're downed. And I talk about this in one of my videos here recently. I did the 8 types of random players that you meet in Apex Legends. And one of them was called the leaver. It's basically just the person that leaves once downed. So if something is going on in your real life, you're playing the game and like, oh crap, I lost track of time, or hey, I gotta run, I gotta go do this. I have no problem with that. Things happen and you need to go. But the rage quitting of just, oh, I'm downed, I'm upset that my teammate isn't right next to me, and I'm gonna leave. Is a very bad and toxic thing that's happening within Apex Legends in a team-based thing. So that's one thing that kind of gets me worked up a little bit. Recent example, and for my toxic things that I'm going to discuss, I'm going to give a real quick example on each. Is recently played a game as Wraith. And my teammates were Octane and Caustic, which doesn't really matter. So we had landed in Skyhook. We were one of 2 teams to land there, so not a whole lot to deal with. And there's tons of loot in Skyhook, which is awesome. So the fact that we only had to deal with one other team was really helpful. So when we landed, we all kind of picked different buildings. We all landed differently, which is great. And you know, I'm struggling to find stuff. I'm getting tons of, you know, accessories, and I'm getting, you know, tons of shield cells and grenades and things like that. But I'm just not finding guns. And I hear my teammate start getting into a battle with the team, and he's muted, and it's no big deal. I leave myself muted majority of the time anyway. But my teammate's also muted, not saying anything, and he gets downed after maybe about 15-20 seconds. So not a big deal. I need to get a gun and then I can go in and get into the fight. So I do, and before my teammate is even finished off, he's just downed, pinging the enemies. He leaves the game. And so I'm able to go in, swoop in. I actually, you know, this doesn't happen very often, but I was able to kind of wipe that squad. And my teammate's gone, so now I've got 4 death boxes of stuff. I get geared up, and my other teammate and I have a pretty decent game. I think we finished 3rd overall. I think I finished with like 6 kills, 1,500 damage, whatever, and we had a good game. And maybe if our teammates stayed, we may have been able to win that. You know, it's one of those things you never know. So right after my teammate left, and I was battling it out with the team that wiped him, that killed him, he sends me a message, and after I wiped him, I'm able to loot up, and then I kind of hide in a corner real quick, and I check the message, and it's basically just him, you know, going in a rage that, you know, hey, I was battling them for 3 minutes, and where the heck were you? God, you're such trash, blah, 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 blah. So I politely say back, like, first of all, that was about 30 seconds. I'm in another building. I didn't have a gun. I was an EVA 8 that I grabbed. I got over there. I wiped the squad. You left the game. I don't know what to tell you. So because that kind of got me worked up and upset, so something I do every time I get a message from somebody, or every time that somebody leaves, and I either win or have a really good game, I take a screen capture of the end to show that. So my teammate left that game had like 40 damage. So I send him a screen capture of us getting 3rd place and, having all this, these damaging kills, to prove to him, like, hey, like, we wiped the squad. If you weren't, being a whiny baby, we may have been pretty successful. So no response back, of course, because, point proven. So don't leave the games. And don't send messages and say toxic things when you're downed and your teammate isn't right there to save you. All right, karma comes around. Number 2, looting teammates' death boxes when you can easily respawn them. Now, there is an exception to this rule. If your teammate is downed and you're still battling and you're running low on health or shields, ammo, you don't have a gun or want to get that second gun real quick, that is the exception to be able to loot your teammate's death box. Okay, it shows up on the map. It has their name on it. You can easily tell when it's your teammate's death box. Don't touch their stuff if you can still respawn them, especially nearby. So, but if you need to grab ammo, it's best to just come off mute and say, hey, I'm just stealing some ammo so I can stay in this fight and maybe survive here. Nobody has a problem with that. Okay, it's when you go through and you start stealing everything that they have. So if you do respawn them in, they've got nothing. All right, so try to split things up as evenly as possible. Leave their stuff there. Okay, so story to this, got into a really intense battle with the team recently, or with my team recently, and we had kind of 2 teams that kind of got third-partied a little bit, and unfortunately I got killed. I think killed 1 or 2, and then I got killed and finished. And my team was fortunately able to get in there and wipe them. We were at drill site. There's a respawn beacon right there. We wiped them. Everything was clear. Everybody was gone. But the ring was coming in, so we had to kind of get moving towards like train yard. And I'm sitting there watching my team because I'm dead, so I can spectate. And they're both just sitting there looting my boxes, their boxes, and not respawning. So the ring's coming in, and finally they see the ring coming. They've looted everything they possibly can, and then they go over and respawn. So meanwhile, I'm respawning in. I don't have time to grab stuff because I don't have any heals. I have nothing to get me through this. All I have time for is to kind of run at this point. So they've basically hindered their own team by not having that third person. Fortunately, we were able to get a win out of that. I was able to get a whole bunch of death boxes and train yard, and we finished that game with a victory. But I definitely came off mute and said a couple of choice words when I got respawned. I said, "Hey, I appreciate the respawn, but I've got no gear, no nothing." And one guy said, "Oh, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It must have been the other guy who never came off mute. He never spoke." But he's like, "Oh, I can drop you stuff or whatever," and I kind of was ticked off at that point, and I said, "You know what? I'm just gonna kind of solo this. I'm gonna do my own thing. I will get my own gear," and so I was able to do that, and we all had a fairly decent game. Unfortunately, the guy who that got blamed for stealing all of my stuff, even though I know they both did, kind of had the worst game. And the one guy that did come off mute and say, "Hey, I didn't take your stuff" or whatever, he was a fairly decent player and was trying to be calm and trying to be a cool guy afterwards. But I just kept myself muted. I was furious, and if I said something, then I wasn't going to be a happy camper. So just don't loot your teammates' stuff, man. Just get them back in the fight if you can. Especially if everybody's gone and there's literally a respawn beacon there, sitting there looting and looting and looting to the point where now the ring is coming in and you got to move. It's just dumb. Number 3 is pinging. So again, I mentioned this in my video about the 8 types of players that you run into, the 8 types of randoms, and I'll put a link to that in the description if you haven't seen that yet. But pinging. So I have a proposition, I guess, towards the end of this type of toxic thing that happens. So pinging when you are downed and constantly pinging where an enemy is helpful. It's more helpful than anything else in a battle, but constantly doing it over and over and over, you can no longer hear. So if you're the guy who like, oh, I like to ping so my guys know where they are, they can no longer hear anything else. So all they can hear is the constant pinging, and your character saying enemy over there, enemy over there. So now they've lost all sorts of sound sense. They can't hear people coming up behind them or anything else, any other callouts or pings, because you're constantly pinging. Okay, just a couple quick pings, or if they move position, or if you see their teammate coming, a couple quick pings like that, that's all that's needed. But the non-stop pinging that an enemy is there is not helpful to anybody. That's not going to get them there any faster. Just a couple quick pings. Again, come off of mute if you have to, rather than just pinging constantly. But the worst part about it is when you're down and pinging for the team to respawn and get your banner. Same thing is if you're constantly pinging for your banner or constantly pinging the beacon, that you're not going to be able to hear the enemy teams coming. Okay, so when your team is trying to go and get your banner from your death box, odds are you just died. That team that just wiped you, that just kicked your butt, is there looting your stuff. So now you're constantly pinging that, wanting your team, who's now outnumbered, to go and get your thing so you can get back in the fight. One ping is enough to let them know, oh hey, I'm down, this is where my box is. Okay, that's all that's needed. One ping, and about one ping per minute. Okay, that is it. Any more than that, so here's my new rule. If somebody constantly pings or pings more often than say about once every 30 seconds, and they keep doing it, I will not go get it. I will let them time out to kind of teach them a lesson. Same thing with a beacon. So granted, that person can stay there the whole time, but you can turn off the ping alerts. So if somebody is going to go ping, so I got their banner and they constantly ping the closest beacon, I don't go get it. If they ping it once, or hey, this beacon just got used, or I need to rotate this way, can you ping the next closest beacon? Ping it once, that's it. All right, if it's a constant thing, I don't respawn the person. I don't grab their banner, or I do not respawn them at the closest beacon. I just won't do it if they constantly ping. And I'll come off mute and say, hey, stop pinging, or I'm not going to do it. And you can ping all you want. I'm just going to turn it off, and you're just wasting your time. Or if it's just their banner I'm trying to go get, even if it's wide open, I will let them time out, and then I'll loot them, just to teach them a lesson. Like I'm not gonna put up with somebody who's gonna constantly ping and try to distract just because they're upset. So that is what I propose to everybody. For any other Apex players who have to deal with randoms that are constantly pinging and pinging and pinging, I propose to people that you do not respawn them. You do not grab their banner. You let them time out. You deal with the pinging in your own head if you need to. Teach people not to do that and to be polite with it. All right, that's number 3. So finally, the number 4 most toxic thing currently in Apex Legends is caustic. All right, guys, later.